Welcome, Nate. Thank you for coming on again to talk with me.
Oh,
um, so today, I think we
you're welcome.
wanted to touch base on the topics that previously we were discussing, and I think we had some trouble recording. So um, I do have some things in mind, but if you want to start off with, what's on your mind and where you're at the moment, because we haven't talked for a while. So whatever you feels best. Yeah.
Well, I'm starting a new social media project. I'm a bit behind because I've been sick for 2 months. So I started a new job and then got sick right away on the first day and have been sick ever since. So I'm still dealing with it.
Oh
But
no.
it's called Project New Awakening. And it's something that it's a culmination of effort and my whole life story and everything I've been through. And it's basically the end. I would put it like this. It's not an end of life mission, but it's the mission that I have to do before my life ends. So, and the purpose of it is to teach people how to beat the mind control of the MyLab programs, how to overcome it, and how to get yourself better, and how to see through the lies. And it's also about political lies by all governments, the nature of reality, and how to get out of the death traps or the soul traps when you die. So it's kind of an all-encompassing thing. It's everything that I've been through, everything that I've accomplished in my own life to help myself. And I'm just going to be putting it out there to help other people. So that's really my end of life purpose. So before I
Okay.
die, this is going to get done no matter what. And so I'm happy to say that. I'm just disappointed in the fact that I've been sick for so long, and I've already been 4 weeks into this, but I'm getting ready to be laid off in a month, so I'll have plenty of time for about 8 weeks. So I should be able to make up for that first 8 weeks of just being sick, and there it is again. It never goes away. Today's genetically engineered viruses don't just last a couple of days; they last a couple of years.
Yeah. Right.
You're always sick, and you got a cold, it's with you for the rest of your life.
It might be like a parasite related thing. Have you tried to cleanse? I think you and Dean were talking about it a while ago. Like you were trying to cleanse the.
No, I got to work around kids that have a lot of germs. So,
Yeah.
and I've been out of the workforce, being targeted for a long time. So my immune system was probably a bit weak. So I got sick before
Yeah.
I started work, and then as soon as I got almost over the first one, still had about 4 weeks of congestion to go in my lungs. I got sick again. So it's
Oh,
just
okay.
like having a 2-year-old in your house. You constantly get sick and they bring everything home. But I've got 120 on the deal with.
Ah, well, my son's pretty good. His immune system's quite stable because he hasn't had the jibby jab. But
Mhm.
I was gonna say there is a detox called the Master Detox, which is like my friend Adele does this. She said it's basically like there is a protocol for it, but it's hot lemon water, organic cayenne pepper, and organic maple syrup, and you just fast on that throughout, like, I think it's about 10 days, 10 to 20 days, up to you. But minimum, I think you need to minimum do like around 5 days, but it flushes out a lot of toxins and
5 days,
recalibrates your body.
5 days with no eating.
No eating, but she said you do not get any cravings or any, you don't want to eat because of the lemon and maple. So you don't get the traditional, when you get hungry, and she was able to do it. Like she does it a few times a year, I believe. And she
Mm.
looks so healthy for her age. She's like, 70 years old and she's very vibrant. I think it's something I want to try to do for like the parasites. It's very simple. Like it's a very simple one. You
Simple in
could
theory, but wow, I mean, I've got to do a fasting
Yeah, it's a good
fasting
thing.
regimen soon. Anyway,
Yeah.
to lower my A1C, you basically do low carb, no sugar. I like the carnivore diet, but with vegetables. And
Yeah,
you
okay.
limit the starches, and then you eat conservatively one day, and you stay, because I'm already on that diet anyway. You eat one day, and then you don't eat the next. So it's one day on, one day off. And you do this for multiple multiple months, at least 3 or 4 months, and it resets your body chemistry. And if you have, if you're going into type 2 and you're pre-diabetic, this can reverse it. So I guess I'm on the verge of pre-diabetic, so I have to make sure that I keep that in check, because it could affect my employment, a lot of other things. And here in the U.S., we don't really have health care. We have Trump care, which means you pay as high as you possibly can. It's extremely expensive and nothing's covered.
Well, the detox I mentioned is actually good for diabetics. It reverses the diabetes, and it's also very good for your kidney and liver function. So you might want to look into it. It's called the Master Detox by Stanley. I can't remember his last name, but it's a very good one. Like very simple, very simple.
Some new food though. That would, because
I'm also just a fasting diet essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be too much for me.
Well,
I tried to fast last week, and I was still sick, and I was falling asleep, so I couldn't do it. I have to wait until the body gets clear, get straightened out.
I wanted to ask you, because you had your previous title as the Voices of Orion project, right?
Yeah.
Have you kind of abandoned that, or?
Yeah, I've abandoned all except for what's on my YouTube channel. I guess it still says it up at the top. That was part of a deception. I was put through a very, very difficult and very harsh suppression protocol by military MyLab handlers. And this also involved a false awakening, which is something a lot of people go through. In fact, the entire community, the disclosure community, has been going through a false awakening, which basically started back in the 50s when these programs began, and the military began shaping the New Age movement and creating this, kind of global deception. So that's what Project New Awakening is about. But the reason I had Voices of Orion project is because they had convinced me that I was a extraterrestrial from a race that refers to itself as Haujean, and it was from a planet called Haujean, which I don't think any of that exists. And it was supposed to be an Orion. And of course, that's where Voices of Orion came from, because I was hearing V2K voices from Orion, and it was military MyLab handlers, a network of them actually. So, and I have one assigned to me. I know his first name, and I've had a lot of interaction with him. But so that's where that came from. That's why I'm abandoning it. It has no real relevance. It was part of a deception, but it's part of my history, so I'm definitely not ashamed to talk about it. I'm one of the people that has recognized that I've been deceived, and I've been put through a false awakening and heavily targeted. And I'm more than happy to go back over everything I've previously said to correct it and clear the air to make sure people understand what's real and what isn't, which is something that tends to be lacking in this community. A lot of people just kind of like try to brush aside what they were deceived about, and then they lie to themselves and go back and continue to communicate with the same entities and whatever they may be. And then they just keep going forward with it. It's part of the Stockholm syndrome in a way.
Yeah. But I think there is some merit to what you were saying, because I was thinking about Orion. I know you probably you have some sort of understanding that it's not authentic, but I do have a lot of research when it comes to Orion. Like, I've done a bit of research, and I know a bit of channelers that connect to that realm. And I really resonated before. I'm not saying that I don't know if you were open to like thinking about it again, because I really resonated with that stuff. I don't know. I know you're saying that it's from a MyLab perspective, but do you know for sure exactly? Because I find in my life, a lot of things that I push aside come back, and there's a deeper meaning. Like maybe you were trained or, put in a certain situation so that you can handle higher levels of consciousness later. Do you think that's a possibility, or do you just want to completely?
Not at all. What it was is my soul has been in U.S. military custody, and probably ET custody longer than this, but for a minimum of 2 consecutive lifetimes. So the pre-birth memory that I had of being in a lab and being transferred to this body at the 12th week of conception was all from an experience that took place in U.S. military custody. So everything that I've been through has been a type of counterfeit false awakening. There were ETs involved with abductions, but overall, it was strictly a military MyLab program. And once I overcame the deceptions, because it was multiple, they would rope me back in, and I would go through it again. But once I got to the point where they realized nothing was working, that's when the mask came off, and it became right in your face. And they told me very, 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 very clearly that, because I asked them, I said, why have you done this to me? Why have you destroyed my health, my life, ruined my marriage, and done all these things to me? And they said it was to preserve the continuity of government.
Yeah.
And this is when reality strikes. So what they've done is that they have created a false awakening. It began in the 50s. They took the spiritualist movement and they shaped it into what we call the New Age movement today. And they've done this using technology that's extraterrestrial tech and other things that they have reverse engineered and developed and used in their own specific purposes and ways. And essentially, they can create the entire contactee channeling experience, as well as taking you out of body or even taking you physically on craft. So they can completely counterfeit the entire ET contactee, whatever you want to call it, abductee experience. And they can give you spiritual experiences and so forth. I've come to the point where I can decipher what's what. I've been able to block their tech, which is another thing that, I don't know how many people can do this. I think a lot of people can, especially those who are used in the MyLab programs, because they picked us because we were we have abilities, and I was born into a psychic bloodline that was monitored by the U.S. military, which is something it took a long time to figure that out. But I'm basically I've lived the classic MyLab life with some new caveats because of the internet and the creation I call virtual temple complexes, which are essentially traps for people like myself to fall into, either using the occult or the New Age to create social media groups where the victims are then, corralled into a group, and then they're split up into smaller subgroups, and then the military and their ETs or whatever, or the, in my case, the counterfeit ETs, then work with these individuals and essentially target them. This includes taking people that aren't even in these programs and turning them into abduction victims as well. I've seen people's lives get destroyed from this. But the big thing here, and the reason I'm so sure of myself, is because after going through all of this, I've been able to turn it around. I've been able to go from being unemployed and being at the mercy of whoever, to actually being able to stand on my own 2 feet. I've shut down their manipulation, my physiology, so they can't make me sick anymore. The illnesses that I have essentially are just residual problems that they gave me, spinal damage, sinus damage, things like that, and other types of problems that I have. But, at 52, a lot of people are sick. So misery loves company, but, I'm sicker than most. I'm doing better than a lot of people, especially those who've been through what I've been through. So I've been on top of this, and the purpose of my project is to help other people. And I understand the methodologies behind the trauma-based mind control, including the remote mind control tech. So, I plan on creating a large library of videos, and also doing a website starting this fall where I do a lot of writing, and it's to help people. It's going to be basically a work that's designed to get people from that point where they're under the jackboot and they're being heavily abused, to being able to stand on their own 2 feet again and overcome this, because you can never completely overcome it until you die and then you get out of the soul traps. But up until that point, you can gain control back of your life, and you can turn things around and not be on the edge of suicide or drug abuse, alcoholism, whatever they try to push you into. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, the results speak for themselves. I've reconnected with God. I have experiences with God. So where before it was always them. So and I don't engage in contact with ETs. I don't wish to. I have no desire. In fact, I think most of the contact that people get is deceptive, and it's not what they think it is. I think there's a small amount of positive contact, but I would be suspect of all of it. All of it has to be kind of held up to a high standard and looked at over time to look for markers that indicate there's deception. So ETs that don't warn you about the vaccination, such as, Bashar promoted the vaccine. He's dealing with malevolent extraterrestrials and military handlers. There's plenty of other people out there. If they're not telling you that this is a spiritual prison, this planet, if they're not telling you that the government's corrupt and they're trying to kill everyone, they're trying to cull the population, if they're feeding you a lot of love and light BS, it's time to get rid of them. They're not here to help you. They're here just to perpetuate the narrative and to keep you under control. So, yeah, that's the situation. I can tell you that you don't need ETs. What you need is the creator, and you need each other, and you need love in your life and good people, and not extraterrestrial trash that has hijacked humanity, taken this planet over, and has essentially used us as cattle, and is now planning on culling the population for more control and basically plugging our minds into AI, which is the big AI takeover is the gravest threat against humanity, which is another thing that I'm going to be talking about extensively. People need to know what's going to happen to them, and it's already happening. And, especially with the vaccines and the nanotech, the social credit score that they're building here in the U.S. and all these AI, basically these big centers they're building that's raising our electricity rates, draining our resources. We were told about global warming is the big threat. We have to cut back on our carbon. But now the same voices are saying we need more power. We need a lot of energy. So they're going to so actually in some areas you may see people go without electricity until the until the electrical grid has been expanded, because they want these data centers. They have to be in to control people. Anyway, that was just going a bit of a rant there, but
no. I was just thinking while you were saying that, is there a lot of pushback there? Like, because I feel like here in Australia, I see a lot of, I guess there's like a different level of understanding now within mainstream society, or whatever you want to call it. I feel like a lot of people are pushing back and awakening to what's happening and don't want to have all these alternative, timelines to do with AI, to do with digital currency or whatever it is, digital ID and smart cities and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of, especially like younger generations, are aware. They're pretty switched on. And I think there's a lot of kind of like hope going on right now, where I see that it's catching up. Like the consciousness is, we started with 2020, right? So everyone kind of had the time to look at themselves, what's important, blah, blah, blah. We had so many regulations. And then after that, we've had like sort of initiations where just a lot of things got exposed. They started talking about ETs, in government mainstream media. So it's like there's a lot of things happening for the collective to realize what's going on. Like it's more acceptable now to talk about these topics. Do you know what I mean? Is it like more open? Like are people more open and, willing to engage in the inner work and understand what the reality is over there? Because I see it here. That's why I'm asking.
it's hard to say. I mean, people are more open to understanding these things, but when it comes to doing anything about it, they're completely inept. They don't have any idea what to do about it, other than, you could tell them everything that you know, and the next thing they'll say is, well, you can't do anything about it. Or they'll tell you, I just want to live my life and not be bothered with it. So let them commit all the acts of evil that they want to do, as long as it doesn't directly affect me. And of course, then I can point out 100, 200 ways right off the top of my head how it's affecting them right now, the cost of living and everything else. And of course, people don't want to do anything about it. They'd rather just let their kids worry about it, let their children die at the hands of government. I'm not seeing any pushback. I'm not seeing people marching in the streets. What I do see is I see people in the independent media who've been bought out, who are pretending to be on our side. I see a lot of that going on. I see people that have been in the mainstream media dropping out and going independent, and I think pretending in a lot of cases to be on our side, but we really don't know if we can trust them. And why are we just listening to them? Because, that seems like they're doing the thinking for Americans. And I do see people that are in the Christian religion who have at least some kind of grounding with the Creator. Not all, but a lot of them. I mean, some of them just religion is just something to wear on their sleeve. It's a title to be bad people and get forgiveness, or just look good, But for the ones that take it to heart, I do see them wanting to do something. And I've talked to people at work and talked to different people all over. And but it's the same problem. They don't know what to do about it. And most people don't even know that they're spraying chemicals in the atmosphere. They become accustomed to seeing jets fly over, leaving contrails that don't go away, that turn into artificial clouds, and they never stop to think and do any critical thinking until you point it out to them that they're spraying chemicals that's harming us in the environment too, right over our heads. But then once you tell them, that's it. It's just okay. They add it into their concept of reality, and they consent to it. They move on. So I see massive consent. I see virtually no pushback. I see people waking up to things, but doing nothing about it. And what I do see is there's something called the Carvelian law, which has to do with karma, and it's the way the occultists believe. They believe if they tell us what they're doing to us and we do nothing about it, then they've pushed the negative karma away from their self onto us. Because our destruction at their hands is consensual. So therefore, there's no harm done. They wanted to die. They wanted to suffer. I think that's what's happening here is that, the government is, and this isn't just the U.S. government, it's the global government, this global shadow government that controls all of the nations to some degree or another. There's different factions within that, which is why there's different, groupings of countries that aren't exactly on the same page because they don't all agree on what to do. But what I do see is I see them conditioning the public to accept things. You would think we have a pedophile president and massive amounts of rapists and degenerates and pedophiles in our Congress and all through our government and intel agencies and all of it. You would think the public would be marching in the streets to protect their children, and that they would see through these people, and everything that they say and everything that they do is a lie, and it's evil. And even if it isn't, they shouldn't be the ones in charge. I don't see anybody really caring about that anymore. Epstein has kind of become a tongue-in-cheek joke. It's just like, it's a subject of humor, but that's it. I don't see anybody really doing anything about it. And in this whole disclosure narrative that's going on is basically fake. What they're doing is they're taking things that we've already known for a long time, the soft version of disclosure, and now they're introducing it and putting the rubber stamp of the federal government on it to say that, we've known about this, but it's being done in such a way. It's basically, they've taken the false awakening they use for the people that are really tuned into this, and they've tested it on them, on us. And now they've gotten the confidence up that they're going to use it on the public at large. So everyone's just getting accustomed to the reality that they have allowed to be created for them through their consent. So I'm not optimistic at all. I think we're on the verge of something very bad, and it's not going to get better. It's going to get much, much worse. It's going to get so bad that it's going to wipe out a substantial portion of the population and sicken and damage the rest. And I think that the survivors of this, they're the ones that have our future in their hands. But as of right now, we've got to go through a lot of strife, a lot of pain and suffering, because the people that have lived before us have let us down dramatically. And they've done nothing but consent. So we're still going through that. I feel sorry for the younger generation. I cry over this stuff. They are the ones that are going to suffer even more because they've never gotten a chance to have even a little bit of freedom. And and now we're moving into a technocracy. So, and before Americans, for example, I don't know how it's going to be in other countries. It's going to be a little bit better, I think, in other countries. But before Americans get a UBI, which is basically a check from the government, when all the jobs are gone, all those that AI is going to be replacing, there's going to be massive amounts of suicides, starvation, and crime sprees, because people are going to have to steal for food. There's going to be massive homelessness. And you're going to have a big pushback from the conservative Christians and the conservative-minded, political people who call universal basic income, in light of no employment, no jobs available, as socialism and communism. And they're going to fight it. And you're going to see that a lot of these people aren't Christians at all. They're actually Satanists wearing the Christian label. And that's just the way I see this. So what I see is this is an awakening, but really what it is, it's the great reveal, because people are starting to show who they really are. When when they tell you you can't do anything about it, it's because they don't want you to do anything about it. When I go out and I do something about it, like doing these podcasts and doing the stuff that I'm doing, or going to Capitol Hill like I have had in the past, which to me at this point is a waste of time. I've always gotten mocked and insulted and put down by the people, by my peers and my family, and I don't do it because I want them to appreciate me. I do it because it has to be done. And I do it because I recognize that there's a much higher power that I work for. And I'm certainly not going to side with these people and do what they want and sit around and just let this happen and do everything I can to ensure that the evil ones are successful, just to make my friends and family happy. And of course, when you start taking a stand and doing things and you start actually being the person you should be, that's when all of the people you thought were friends and family are going to start to hate you and put you down, because they don't want to see anything change. They don't want to see good in the world. They want to see the status quo maintained, because to them it's comfort. However they see it, I don't know. However they derive comfort from it, it remains to be seen. But when you step up, that's when you realize just how many people who claim to be Christians and claim to be this and claim to be that, well, really, their life comes from and their whole philosophy comes out of the Satanic Bible. Might makes right. Do unto others before they do unto you, and get yours before somebody else gets it. That's what I see. Humanity is a massive disappointment. I don't see this big awakening, this whole thing that we've been fed, the whole QAnon nonsense. Yeah, we've been fed a false awakening extraordinaire, extra deluxe version. And it's time for us to wake up. And the people that have a heart still and have a conscience and can do something about it, and that means anybody can do anything about it. I've got very little means to do anything money-wise and health-wise. I have an energy deficit from being targeted and sickened, and then having to go back to work and and having to do it with physical disabilities. It takes a lot out of me, but I still find time to fight the good fight. There's no excuse for people to sit around and enable this stuff, because that's what everybody's done. So has it worked? Has it worked to push it off on somebody else? No, it hasn't. Is being selfish, is that self-sustaining? No, it isn't. We need each other to survive. Most people still haven't figured that out yet, sadly.
Well, that's true. We do need community. I don't think it's possible to, progress as a society, or like just by ourselves in the woods or something. It doesn't work that way, because we're a collective and everything in the field will affect us. And I think, like, in terms of standing up to your friends and family, in my experience, there has been a lot of, it's just very hard to initiate change. People don't want to see, like you were saying. So I don't take it personally. I think it's just this underlying consciousness that is in our society where, a lot of people won't want, they cannot adapt in the moment that you have adapted. So you have to give it more time and patience until you can see the change being assimilated into yourself and other people around you, if that makes sense. Like, it will not happen straight away, but there are changes happening. So I just kind of like seed people and wait for the outcome, because I have, like, Christians, they always say, like, be expectant, which we should, because there is a change happening. And I know it's really hard at the moment because of, all the topics we discussed, but in my, like, understanding of how things are going at the moment, like, a lot of energetic frequencies are coming in from the solar flares as well, and that's affecting our consciousness. The CMEs especially, like, they're actually stronger than traditional solar flares. And there's a lot of anomalies happening all around the world. I do have hope that the Native Americans talk about their prophecies and this time of transition. I really feel that people are stepping up, not in the way that they're going out and doing what did you say, the protests. They're not doing that, but they're doing it like as an inside job kind of thing, where it might take a while for us collectively to agree, but I see it, like, I see the, seedlings of the seed happening right now.
Yeah, my position is, and I've gotten this from going to Capitol Hill and getting involved in political matters, is that you can't waste your time on the people that just don't care, which is the majority. You have to find people that do care, and then have the talent still left in them. And this is just, when I say talent, I mean just heart. I mean, I don't care if you've got Down syndrome, you can do a better job than most people when it comes to speaking your mind. People with a good heart still, which is hard to find. And there's people that act nice, and they may take care of their family and so forth, but when it comes to helping anyone outside of that, they always put themselves first, which really technically is putting themselves last, because they don't understand that this is a system and we need everyone. But I'm only going to be focusing on those people that actually can do something. They're the ones that need help, because what's happened, Rose, is that they have set up a system of targeting. Okay, and this is with the help of extraterrestrials. They can monitor thought remotely. They can actually cause someone to run into. I'll give you an example. The last month, okay, and this went on for about 3 weeks, I had 10 near collisions caused by other people that I had to use defensive driving. This was the handlers attempting to kill me or injure me or cause me to damage, to destroy my vehicle so that I couldn't get to work, so that I would begin the implosion again, to destabilize me if they couldn't kill me. So, I went through 10 days of that. I could sense it. And I was able to read the energy on the road, and I could see things kind of developing, and I could avoid them. But I came close 10 times. They can do this to anybody. The reason they're doing it to me that way and not actually getting me like before is because they can't get me like they could before. So they're limited to what they can do. But they can do this stuff to anybody. So what they've done is essentially they've won the revolution without ever firing a shot. They've compromised and taken out the people that would have made change already. It would have steered us into a new direction, a positive, sustainable one. And we're not at all going in that direction. So what we have left, we have a lot of damaged people that need help. So I'm putting my focus on, the people that they've targeted, the MyLabs, the targeted individuals, those people that need help, because they're the first line of change that has been compromised to the point where they've become ineffective at what they came here to do. And they induce mental illness through these technologies. So there's a lot of people that are living that are living in an abandoned car that could have had tremendous potential to induce change in society. And plenty of other people that are sitting home that are sick and can't do anything. They're shut-ins because they've been targeted by these programs and these handlers. That's who I'm focusing on. The public at large, I can't help them. They don't, because they're not open to this type of thing.
Yeah. I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm just gonna pause one moment. I'm really sorry. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Pause. Okay. my son is a bit wanting my attention, but it's okay. Yes. Continue where you were saying. I think it was about the uh like
I was talking about the pushback that you get when you try to do something positive, and
yeah,
people, a
yeah,
lot of people resent it for some reason, and I don't want to be stuck on that subject, but this is
yeah,
just things that I've had to deal with, and it's not just that the people have problems, and then that's why they're doing this, that they're conditioned. But when you're in a situation like myself, when you've got my lab handlers, they can influence the people around you, and they will use attachments, parasitic entities that are controlled by AI. They
yeah,
use they can use frequencies. They have, and with the vaccine, since everyone's vaccinated around me, but one person, two actually, um, you know, nanotech can be accessed. So they have a much more efficient system to control people's minds. So they can influence people around you. So when they normally would just kind of frown upon on the positive things that you're doing, now they're actually in your face about it. So it enhances the pushback. But it's part of the course.
yes,
I'm more than able to handle it. It doesn't bother me anymore. But it is something that it's important to bring it up, because a lot of people are also going through the same thing, and they
oh
need
yeah,
to understand where it comes from, why it's happening, and when I practice something I call emotional alchemy, which is the control of your emotions and your energy, which is
yeah,
something you absolutely have to do,
yeah,
especially
yeah,
when you're dealing with these AI type of mind hijackers in the military industrial complex. And I literally had every waking hour, every waking moment, other than, and when I was asleep, because they do sleep programming while you're asleep to change
mm-hmm.
your behavior patterns and your thoughts. But during the day, I mean, I literally had 16 plus hours a day of verbal harassment by a V2K handler combined with an AI mimic. So when it
Yeah,
wasn't him talking, it was AI that was mimicking him. And then he was portraying himself as two other people, Roger and Alex, but it was all the same person, all the same AI. So yeah, I've what I learned was, and having to deal with that, and having to deal with the fake ET harassment that happened before that, is that you have to control your emotional state, and that means you have to heal yourself, but you have to go above and beyond what normal people would have to deal with. So it's just like, when you deal with children, you have to control your energy, because if you feed into whatever's going on that's inappropriate, they feed off of it, and it gets worse. So you can't yell and scream and be
no,
authoritative.
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's the same thing when you're dealing with people. And so I've been able to, once I got them out of my system, so to speak, I realized that they were using my energy to affect other people in a negative way. Now I can control my interactions with people. I don't have people just turning on me and acting out of character simply for me just being there and not
Yeah,
doing anything to deserve it, because they have a way to take over your energy and project emotions, so the person gets agitated with you or dislikes you for no logical reason. They're not even consciously aware of it themselves. So this
yeah,
causes a lot of problems, and this is where a lot of TIs suffer when it comes to employment and social situations. And a lot of them try to become a shut-in. They try to lock themselves out. They don't want to associate with others, and that's not healthy at all. So I plan on talking about this in detail and trying to help people. I also help people who need help. I don't charge anything. I mean, people, there's a small number of people that confide in me, and they become long-term friends. And I try to do my best to help them and support them, and to get them through this. While other people, unfortunately, will go out and try to take advantage of others in these compromised situations. I don't, because I would never do that to another person, because I see myself in them. I was there, and I know what it's like. And and I don't have to see myself. I can empathize with them anyway. I have a mutual love and respect for people, regardless if they're terrible. Yeah, because no one's really evil or terrible. It's a distortion. It's a disease, and it can be corrected. It can be cured. And so
yes. Well,
no
there
one's
is
evil.
No, I don't believe in like evil. Like pure evil is just a concept. I don't think it exists in my understanding. But I do feel like I was just gonna ask you: is there like for me, I feel like understanding what has happened here on a cosmic level, where celestial powers or beings have influenced our history here on Earth, can help understand where we are and where we're going in terms of oh, my sons, in terms of, you know, anchoring in what we want in others and in society, to help propel a new way of being. You know what I mean? Like, where do you see this going? Do you see, like, because I know we're in a place where we need a lot of healing and support. I do get that, but ultimately it does seem like, you know, even with the Epstein files and stuff like that, a positive thing, even though it's seemingly negative, because we're able to, like, you know, discuss these topics at least now, whereas in 10 years ago, like, there was no way that, you know, we could even fathom to progress this far, where like ETs and, you know, Epstein files and all that kind of stuff are on mainstream news. It was all conspiracy back then. Do you know what I mean? Nowadays it's kind of like common knowledge. Like, you can't argue it, it's on mainstream media.
The problem is that people have fallen away from loving each other. You know, love in the world is very scarce. It's hard to find. True love, true unconditional love is very difficult to achieve and find and have that experience with other people. People need to understand how we got to this point. And I think, you know, that's stuff that I'm going to be talking about. But when it comes down to these things being more acceptable to talk about, that's positive in one way, but it's negative in so many other ways, because they want us to accept this. They want us to accept this new reality.
Oh.
So what they're doing is acclimating us to their evil ways and what they've done. So instead of there being a pushback, and instead, you know, because if people were truly grounded in love for one another, there would be a massive pushback, and it would have already happened. It would have happened decades ago. So 10 years ago, these things weren't, you know, they were like, oh, tongue-in-cheek laughter. People would laugh at you and make fun of you if you brought these things up, or they would tell you, you can't believe what you read on the internet or see or watch what you watch on the internet. It's all conspiracy theories, right? Now they believe it. They're more open to believing this and accepting it. The problem is that they don't have the love in their heart to put themselves in harm's way, to inconvenience themselves, to do something about it, to take a stand. They're willing to accept the politician that rapes women and rapes children, provided that they do some small, tiny thing for them while they do a boatload of evil. You know, they're willing to vote for the lesser of the two evils, even though even though the elections are likely almost completely rigged. And they're rigged from the start, because they pick the candidates that they control for you to pick from. So it's already rigged to start with. Not many. I don't know too many people who would dispute that, other than the completely brainwashed. Most people would agree that, you know, even if they're in opposing political ideologies, that you don't really have a choice between who you pick from. It's just they control all of them. It's just that people still haven't realized that, you know, there's two sides to the political system here in the U.S., for example. But both sides are basically false. It's built up. It's a house of lies on both sides. If we had the truth, we wouldn't be Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, Labor Party, Green Party, all of that. We would be one people. The reason we have political parties is so that they can condition us to engage in tribalism. You know, and there's people who just see a candidate as a political party. They see it as an identity and they stick with it. They don't care what that candidate or that politician does when they get to office. They don't care what terrible things they do and how much harm they commit, even to them, as long as they're on the same team. And we're conditioned. So people really need an education, and they're not getting it in the universities or the schools. They're not getting it on TV. They need to be educated on how they've conditioned us to accept all of these things. The tribalism, you know, wearing, all these religious titles. I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian, all these different things. And all of it's negative human social engineering. It goes all the way back to the hijacking of the planet with the extraterrestrials, portraying themselves as gods, building temples, building pyramids, and people worshiping in these structures. Now we turn the television on to worship. We, every week we go to the bank for, communion. It's kind of like when I stand in the line at times. A lot of it's virtual now, but when people go to deposit their paycheck or withdraw money, it's like they're getting communion. I mean, I see things in a different way.
Yeah.
And I need to get people to realize, once you understand this, and once God comes back to your heart, this becomes so easy to deal with. And not so much to deal with, but easy to see the deception. And it becomes so easy to make the decision on what to do about it. I don't hesitate to put myself in harm's way. There's people out there that have asked me, like, why are you still alive? You've said more than most of these people put together, and a lot of them are in bad way, but you're still going. And I've already paid my dues. I've already been through the worst of it.
Yeah.
And I say that God protects people that actually take a stand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you're very resilient, and I think that, it's part of what I would term like an initiation, where you do get levels of higher consciousness because you have been able to go low in consciousness and understand what's happened. I think the Gnostics say that, you have to try and integrate the lower self or the lower desires and for the higher self to anchor in. Does that make sense? That's what I feel like you're doing.
Well, I really can't relate to the average person or what they've been through. But I can say this when I look back, knowing what I know now, and from the things that I've experienced the last couple of years and how I've freed myself from a lot of this, is when I look back, I realized that there was a lot of times where it appeared that my intuition was hijacked, and that the handlers were pushing me into getting, into certain situations, which they were.
Yeah.
When I look back, I remember, not only did it feel wrong when I was doing it, and I could see that part of myself, like, it was like that was my anchor. That was the oversoul letting me know that this is the wrong path. But I had to do those things. I had to be involved in a cult, for example. I had to do a lot of different things and experience these things, and I also knew that I had to draw these handlers out, whoever they were, whether they were extraterrestrials, whether they were demons, spiritual beings, whatever they were. I never thought they were military for a long time until the mask came off, but I knew that I had to connect with them, and I had to draw them out of the hiding place that they were in, so that I knew what I was dealing with. So what I realized was I was always following my intuition, even when my intuition was allowing me to get hurt. And that was part of my purpose. So my purpose was to go out and experience these things, which is why I got involved in certain things. And of course, I had all these things that were happening to me, the abductions and the constant. My son always drops a large steel object right above my head every night.
Like my son.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear my son doing something as well.
Yeah, it's like heavy construction up here. That was probably
I understand.
Large battering ram crashing to the floor.
I didn't know what are they on?
I don't know. I go in the room and I don't see any of these on. Like, what was that fell?
Yeah, they just have their own.
That was when you tear the carpet up upstairs and you have hardwood floors. There's no sound. But anyway, yeah, my intuition has gotten me into these things and out of them. And I went to when I went to the conference just past July, Full Disclosure Now conference. I got attacked while I was there. So more ways than one. I had my presentation deleted 30 minutes before I went on stage. That was the first for everybody who's done a conference. I think I'm probably the only person that's happened to. Wow. It isn't a fun thing. I'm not happy with it, but they got to my mother and she accidentally deleted it from her laptop before I got a chance to do it. But I also got hit with directed energy at least twice. And I knew going into the conference that someone in the psychic fair was going to reach out to me. It was just an intuitive sense that I had. Well, this wonderful lady named Anne Marie Morales, who did a psychic reading on my mother the morning before, told her to ask me if I could come down and see her because, she felt that she felt intuitively pretty strongly that there was a need to see me. So we talked. I came down the next day and I waited around. Finally she came in and she did a free reading on me, and she did a clearing too. And I felt better from it because whatever they did to me, I was feeling sick that morning. And I started to feel better moments after we got done. But she drew a picture for me. I don't know if I've got it here. Let me see. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I got a mess on my desk, but I don't know. Here it is. Yeah, here it is, actually. So I don't have, and this is something that I had to really soul search to make sense of. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see. What are they like?
You can see a little better now.
Oh, roots. Is that like a tree
it's
or something?
Root. Yeah, well, what it is, let me see. Okay. Yeah. I have a root chakra that's different from anybody that she's ever seen. And okay, this would be the root chakra. Okay, this looks like roots. But what they're actually a gold filament network. And this empty space right here
filament, yeah,
is where the root chakra normally would be. And the other chakra is right above this.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of a sphere of light or a circle of light, whatever it would be manifesting as, mine looks like a scrying mirror. It's like a void. It's like a hole in space-time, and it's surrounded by a gold filament.
Yes.
Like a bird's nest, kind of woven around it, like a picture frame around a scrying mirror. And
yes.
This is essentially. And she thought that this was some kind of damage.
Yeah.
Oh, no. You need to take a break?
No, you continue quickly, but I think I might have to stop soon. Is that okay? Another 5 minutes because my son is very angry at the moment.
And if you want to do this again, just write down where we were, like your last thought. And because I'm not going to remember it.
It always happens with us. All right, quickly, because I want to know about the root. Yeah.
Okay, so what she wanted to she communicated with some beings. These weren't negative beings. These are some of the positive ones. Like I said, they're not all bad.
Yes.
But she connected with them. Are you okay?
No, okay, yeah. Maybe we'll pause it for now. I think something's happening. We'll continue soon, okay? Thank you, Nate. All right, we'll continue your root.
Okay, I'll remember. We're on the root chakra subject.
Root chakra, yeah, just get the image again. I'm really sorry. He's
make
stopped.
A note, right? No, just make a note, and I'll let you go.
I'll make a note. Yeah.
All right, take care.
All right, take care, Nate. I'm sorry to end it.
That's okay. He needs your